No matter how great you are, we all get stuck in business. Our special guest today is going to walk us through what to do when you get stuck so that you can push through your roadblocks. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe marketing shouldn't be difficult. All you need is the right plan. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am really excited to have with me Jon Dwoskin from the Jon Dwoskin Experience. Jon, welcome. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was on your podcast, I don't know, a month or two ago. So it's nice to switch sides of the mic this time.
Yeah. It's fun to see what the other side of StreamYard looks like. Because usually when I'm on podcasts, they're recorded, they're on Zoom, and this and the other. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So for those that don't know what StreamYard is the streaming software that we're using to stream live. If you have ever thought of streaming live, go check out. You owe it to yourself to put it in StreamYard. Yeah. It is fantastic. It is so easy to use. So I'm not used to seeing the other side of it either. So it is cool. Now, look, people get stuck in business all the time. So I am super excited to kind of work through this process and give people some tips on how to get through it. Before we do that, I always start with just asking some kind of rapid fire questions to help us get to know you. So you ready to jump into this?
Sure.
Okay. Let's do it then. So when you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
With my family, my wife, my two kids, my friends, playing tennis, playing golf.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's your hidden talent?
I play piano. Nobody really knows I play piano, but I've played since I was 7. Yeah.
Dang. All right. So you've been playing since you're 7. You're Mozart-ish.
No, I'm not even really that good. Yeah.
It's so enough to know where it's kind of a party trick. You can start playing and entertain.
Most people don't even know. I play. I don't. But I enjoy it. And but yeah.
Okay. Is it relaxing?
It's so relaxing.
Okay. Yeah. I can imagine that.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
My parents used to tell me 2 different things that just come to mind. One is you can learn from everybody, whether they're older or younger, right? So never discount anything. Like just always be in a learning mode, which I always think was so important. And then the next was don't ever be jealous. Jealousy will kill you. Okay. It's just, just be happy for other people and don't be jealous. And I think it was very simple, but great advice. Be open for learning and be happy for other people.
That reminds me of, don't be jealous, reminds me of a quote that I heard from Steph Curry. And he said his dad always told him, don't count other people's money.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a great quote because so many people, it's so easy to fall into that trap. But damn, if you're counting other people's money, you're never going to be happy.
Right. Probably why Steph Curry is, that foundation. That's kind of how he plays on the court, right? It's like he's just effortless the way he plays. Yeah, it's amazing.
So, what's one thing about you that surprises people?
This is kind of funny, but so I live in Detroit, the suburbs of Detroit, and I went to Eastern Michigan University, and it was a great school. I got a great education. I double majored in journalism and economics, but I'll be at meetings and people just assume I went to University of Michigan. So I always laugh with my wife who went to U of M and my kids, because people will say to me, people will be talking, I'll be at a meeting, they'll say, at Michigan, like when when you were there, I was like, well, I didn't go to Michigan. And they'll say, well, where'd you go? And I say, I tell them, well, I went to Eastern Michigan. And they say, you did? But it's always like something that people are surprised I didn't, go to Michigan. I always think it's hilarious. So, and then when I tell them I went to Eastern, they're like surprised that I went to Eastern. So I don't know, Sometimes people think I'm smarter than I.
So I guess you should take it as a compliment that they assume you went to Michigan.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that. What does success mean to you?
It's changed so much over the years. I'm going to be 49 on Saturday. And so success, at this stage of my life is so much different than it was, when I graduated college at 23 years old.
Yeah.
But to me, success is about fulfillment, period.
Cool.
I have a business. My end game was always to create the business that I have right now, which is my business coaching business and speaking and things of that nature. We can get into more details later, but success minus fulfillment equals failure, or success without fulfillment equals failure. It's one of my favorite Tony Robbins quotes. And I really believe that success is about just being fulfilled. And everybody works so hard. And, there are people who are listening to this who are saying, I'm in that space. And there are people I think who will listen to this and say, I'm not in that space, but I can't, that space doesn't even exist or is so far away. But I think you need to, wherever you are, you have to build to that place, whether it takes a day, a week, a year, or even multiple years. You can get there. It just may take some time.
Yeah. The thing I love about that too, though, is you can get fulfillment on the journey, not just the destination.
Absolutely.
Which is why I love that thought process on that.
Right. You shift your mindfulness a little bit and you change the narrative, and you can find these valleys of fulfillment that maybe you didn't see before. And and looking at things with new lenses and perspective, again, can add such fulfillment. I think, many people say we're in, still a pandemic. Many say we're in an endemic, but I think COVID this last year and a half has really kind of put things in perspective to find areas of fulfillment, gratitude, and appreciation where maybe many of us, haven't had it in the past. I know I have a much deeper level of all of those things.
Yeah.
As we fast forward from March of 2020. Yeah.
I love it. So where's your happy place?
In my house. I love being in my house. It's and I love being in my house. I love being with my wife and my kids and my dogs. I'm very content and happy at home. I think also that's another thing you say, what surprised people. I'm much more of an introvert than people think I am.
Yeah.
People think I'm much more extroverted than I am, but I'm kind of a homebody and I like being home. And I like being out with friends and out and about and talking to people and, hanging out with my buddies. But I like being home. I like being, so lockdown for me was not as stressful as, of course there was stress elements of it because of the world and things of that nature, but being in a house, and not being able to leave with my wife and my kids and my dogs, it was great.
Yeah. Man, we have more similarities than I thought.
Yeah.
My wife said through this whole pandemic, she's like, gosh, you're a lot more of an introvert than I realized. I always knew you were a little bit more introverted, but it's like, man, I've been totally content. I got plenty of things to do.
Right. I'm content. I'm very content. Where you're looking at me, I've been here for 15 months, like in this map. So I kind of do want an office. I'm trying to find an office where I can rent, an empty office in somebody's office.
Yeah.
Because I would like a place if I want to get out of this, just like this room I'm in right now is very small and compact. And I don't, if you look at the last year and a half of stuff I've done, my podcast, my tips, my this, everything is in this spot wearing a black t-shirt. So it's, so I would like to get out a little bit, but overall much more of an introvert. Yeah.
Yeah. What about qualities? What qualities do you value in the people with whom you spend time?
Yeah. Just kindness, I think is kind of sums it up. I like a good edge of somebody and personality, I like to laugh and have fun and, personality, but, just, fun, laugh, you can laugh but at their core, kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. This world would be a whole different place if most people approached it from The thought process of being kind all the time.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now with your coaching business and just, you know, anything that you want to share about your past experience and who you're working with and how you're helping them today.
Yeah. So I don't tell anybody who I work with. I don't share my client roster. And I think if I did, I actually would probably get even more clients, because I work with solopreneurs to Fortune 100 companies and everything in between. But everything I do, clients of mine, you know, share so much confidential information with me. I've always had the philosophy, I just don't repeat any of it to anybody. And I think that's really important. But what I do with these individuals, with these companies, is keep them consistent in their execution, right? Work with them on leadership skills. You know, it's interesting. So many people are successful and stuck in multiple, one or multiple lanes. You know, I think one of the things I do is I help people simplify things. I help people bring out ideas of things. I help people take the complicated and the complex and younger it down to a kindergartner to a second grade level, so they can then productize it and then sell it internally and sell their product externally. Teaching people how to productize themselves, teaching people how to look at their organization more as an operational system, teaching people how to manage people. Most people, you know, most companies promote managers because they were good at their job and then don't train them or even know if they're good at managing people. And most of the time they're not. And so training these people is really, really important. You know, creating business plans, reverse engineering those plans, and providing tools and best practices on what can be implemented into their business immediately. My coaching, I look at myself as a month-to-month investment, guarantee, value add. You know, you pay me 20, I give you 100, right? I'm more than that, but that's just kind of an analogy. Yeah. But, you know, as far as the mindset, I don't do any contracts with my clients because I guarantee my value. And the trick with coaching is consistency, right? You know, yeah. You know, someone who wants to call me and do 2 hours of coaching because they're stuck and they don't want to do any more coaching, I'll do that. But 85% of my clients come in, we do a deep dive, and then we do 15 to 30 minutes a week. If they need more time, we add more time. But it's about, what's the plan this week? What do you need to do this week? What do we have to plan out, map out? You know, what do we need to really strategize on? And we get a ton done. And the key is consistency, absolutely consistency. And I think that's where people stop, because where coaching is a lot of work, right? I'm with my clients 15 to 30, sometimes an hour a week, but then they're working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours on top of that. Now, I guarantee my accessibility. I return every call, text, email, same day, but they have to do the work. You know, I can point to one or two clients that started coaching with me, but then didn't want to do the work. So they say, well, it's not really working as fast as I thought. Well, yeah, because I would say to them, you have to actually do the work. You have to take the stuff we talk about and actually work, and doing 10 hours a week isn't going to cut it, you know? So you have to be ready to jump in, stretch yourself, and be really ready to grow.
So let's talk about getting stuck. Yeah, I kind of led into this in the beginning. We all get stuck at some way, shape, or form. Your clients, you're helping them get unstuck and push through those. Yeah. Why do people and companies get stuck, and how can you help them get unstuck?
Yeah. Well, one thing is they overcomplicate things. You know, I think business is, you know, through my lens, business is pretty simple. And people make it really complicated. And when I'm going into a company, I see things and can reverse engineer things intuitively and instinctively down to the simple. And so, you know, I'll go into a boardroom and everybody's in the boardroom and they're talking about, you know, this and how, and it's like they're spending 10, 15 minutes talking about something that could be summed up in under 2 minutes with much easier clarity. And so I coach a lot of those people. I coach a lot of people just to even prep for major corporate meetings, because they're going in and they don't even know how to articulate what they do, right?
Yeah.
What they do, they don't know how to do it succinctly, tightly, where it has impact and it has clarity. And so working with people on communication and leadership skills, there's so much art and science when it comes to, if you're the person who's running a meeting, the agenda to the meeting, how you roll out the pre-meeting, how you roll out to get people prepped for that meeting, how you get people the agenda, how to have an effective meeting, you know, what to do after the meeting, certain things to run and do at a meeting. You know, there's all of these elements of just interacting with human beings and making things just simpler, whether it's the CEO, the owner of a company, and how they lead and articulate their message, whether it's a manager managing people, understanding the importance of one-on-ones and how to bring the best out of every single person and get them to their potential, whether it is a salesperson who ironically doesn't really know how to sell or is afraid to ask for business. These are ways that people get stuck. These are the people that I coach to work with salespeople to basically teach them how to ask for business and then role play and set a plan of action and how to market and brand themselves. Managers, how to get the most out of their people, provide them tools and best practices where they can do that. And CEOs and leadership teams to really how to run an effective company and lead people and build a culture that is always evolving. And, you know, one of the things I think people get wrong with why they get stuck is a leader should be talking about the vision of their business every single day. And that should trickle down to the managers and them talking about the vision, because everybody needs to feel connected to the vision of a business. And so sometimes people don't know how to do that or why they need to do that. But the people working at a company need to feel connected to the vision and then how their work connects to that vision and why they matter. And then if your people are not feeling like they matter or understanding how they're connecting to the bigger vision, then they're just not going to give their 100%. They'll give their 80% that looks like 100%. And then everybody just starts to kind of get a little stuck, right?
Do you think does the vision help them if they're buying into the vision? Does the vision help everybody on the team find meaning in what they do?
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it like this. You know, have you ever put together a puzzle?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, one of the things I do with clients is I'll break people into groups when I'm doing some group training, and I'll give them the pieces of a puzzle, but I don't give them the cover. Right. And so it takes them a long time to figure it out. So then I make them pull it apart, and then I give them the cover, and they do it again, and they do it really quickly. And so it showcases an example of, if you're not putting the vision in front of people, they'll create their own, and it will take 10 times as long. And if you just look at time, right? If you save somebody 4 minutes a day, that's 24 hours a year, just to kind of quantify that. Yeah. So if you're letting your people define the vision, and then the amount of time it's going to take them to figure things out, and you're not sharing with them what that is and how to do it and training them up, you're going to get stuck, because all of a sudden you have a company of, let's just say, 100 people, and you have 100 definitions of what the vision is, because the leader hasn't articulated the message and the vision effectively. Yeah. So how can people not get stuck in that? Yeah, it's like a highway with 100 different cars going all different speeds in all different kind of directions.
So the vision acts like the cover to the puzzle. It helps guide you in what you need to do to get there.
Correct.
I love that analogy. That's a great analogy. So a lot, if I'm hearing you correctly, a lot of companies get stuck because of complexity and lack of vision.
Correct.
I love it. One of the quotes that always stuck with me about complexity is that complexity is the enemy of results. When we complicate things, it is so much easier for those things to fail. And when they fail and they're complex, it becomes that much harder to really dig in and hone in on where the breakdown is occurring.
Yeah.
But when we keep things simple, man, they just operate more efficiently. If we run into issues, it's much easier to identify, and we got a breakdown here. It's not easy to make things simple, which is why most people overcomplicate things. It's so easy to overcomplicate it.
Well, I think a lot of times, I think
that approach.
I think a lot of times people want to sound like the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Right? They want to just, they want to do that. And so when you're, and then, you know, I've worked with companies, I continue to work with companies that merge with other companies. And, you know, you go to this meeting where everybody's kind of like, you know, even energetically kind of like pounding their chest in a way, where it's kind of like, and the way I see and hear things that people aren't paying attention to. And so, and it's interesting because sometimes you can't come out and say, this is what I'm seeing and this is what's really going on. Sometimes it takes a 3 to 8 hour meeting to bring everybody else along the journey so they can then say, oh, this is what we see. But I can see it sometimes within the first couple minutes, but I can't tell the client that because I have to take them on a path so they can raise their level of awareness and see it.
Got it. So you start working with somebody, you realize that they're stuck because of, you know, complexity or a vision issue. I'm assuming that next step in some way, shape, or form is some type of plan. How do we, let's talk about the importance of a plan and why we need to have one in place.
Sure. Well, a plan, an action plan is absolutely critical, right? So to me, I look at myself as a guide to help people, right? Yeah. I'm there to be of service and to guide them with my expertise into the, you know, next level of where their business is going. And as I create a plan for them and then create an action plan for them, we define what success looks like and we define what failure looks like. And then we reverse engineer the plan from there. And then everybody understands what the plan is with very critical, specific, and measurable goals of what needs to be done. And then rolling out, okay, this person needs to do is doing this. This person's doing this. This person's doing this. Again, simple, right?
Yes.
And then you have part of the action plan is, okay, what's our, in some cases, daily or weekly check-in to make sure that everything is getting done. Everything needs one owner. Everything needs a deadline. Everything needs a next step. Most people where they get also stuck and lost is they don't have deadlines and we don't know who owns a project. And so everything needs a deadline, an owner, and a next step if it's gonna accelerate, you know, down the path to be ultimately completed.
Is there a framework that you use consistently from a plan standpoint, or does it vary depending on what you're working with the client on?
It varies. It varies, but the I hate using the word template, but the formula, the formula is the same, right? What's the project, right? What does somebody need to do?
Yeah.
What's the next step? Who's the owner? What's the deadline, right?
Yeah.
And you just have, you know, and what are any issues that are going to get in the way? How do we overcome those issues, right? Who's the co-owner that is going to be somebody that you can reach out to, and you just kind of create it. You know, you can create it in an Excel sheet, and then you just keep it ongoing. Okay, we're going to meet every Monday. We're going to meet every Friday at 8 a.m. for 20 minutes to go over this, and everybody's got to come prepared.
I love it. You know, from a marketing standpoint, our view is that it's all about the plan. You got to have a plan. The way it was explained to me, and it always stuck with me, was that, you know, when you plan, it outlines your priorities.
Correct.
And when you have priorities, you have clarity. And when we have clarity, that reduces stress because we know exactly what we need to do, which I think is so important. So Yeah. I mean, execution with a poor plan is better than no plan at all. So, you know, and you know, the other, have you ever read the book, The Slight Edge from Jeff Olson?
No, it sounds great though.
It's a really good book. It just talks about like the small habits that really lead to exponential either growth or, you know, a downward spiral. But one of the things he talks about in there from a planning standpoint is the plan you start with isn't the plan you're going to end with, you know? So it's just, your plan just helps get you moving and taking action and knowing where you need to focus right now, but the plan will evolve. So forget about trying to create a perfect plan. It doesn't exist. Just put one together and start moving.
Right. Well, the plan will evolve itself. Everybody should take action. I think the key is really deadlines, right? Yeah. Who owns this and what's the deadline? Yeah.
Awesome stuff. So I don't think we can have a conversation about, you know, companies without talking about culture. Culture, I think, is critical to the success of any business. How do you grow a culture of thinking big? And what does thinking big mean?
Sure. Well, let's start with that. What does thinking big mean? Thinking big is, you know, doing small things every day that get you to your big, period. Right. So if you want to think big, you got to do the small things every day that get you and compound to your big, whether it's your goal, whether that's your purpose, whatever that is. But when you talk about culture, I think people don't understand, leaders don't understand the amount of power that they have in a culture. 95% of everything that they do, say, how they walk, how they, you know, if they roll their eyes, whatever they do affects the culture. That is the bar of the culture. And sometimes people don't want to, you know, they act surprised by it, but it's, you know, sometimes what I'll say to them is like, you know, stop pretending you're confused. Like, you run this company, you're a leader. When you scream at someone, you change the culture within a minute. You know what I mean? I mean,
yes.
If you're going to live in your office with your, you know, back in, and I think this is starting to come back now, but if you're going to not be accessible, not be approachable, have a closed door, your light's always off, you know, and if you're going to be that person and you're the leader and the owner, that's your culture.
Yeah.
Right? You may have a subculture that wants to live in a different, more of a fun environment, but the culture is what the leader sets the tone to, period, the end. And whether a leader wants to accept that or not, I mean, you know, that's his or her choice, but that's the culture. The problem, the obstacle is the bigger the company gets, is when you have managers that are the wrong managers that manage a ton of people, they create subcultures.
Yes.
Those are either consistent with the culture of the overall company. If they're the wrong type of manager and don't know how to manage people, that subculture becomes a very negative, unproductive, culturally kind of, you know, environment where most of the time people are just complaining. And so, and when you have an owner of a company or a C-level exec who's out of touch with that, a lot of times they let that just kind of happen, and they're not in, and that's a big problem. And once you have one manager, you know, one apple, you know, ruins the whole, you know, that one drop of blood ruins a gallon of water. Once you have one manager who's leading people negatively, it spills over to the other groups, and then you really begin to lose your culture. So people are absolutely critical. Managers are some of the most important people you can have in an organization, managing people to make them feel like they matter. I mean, everybody's important in an organization, but good managers are so important. So are good salespeople, because you got to do sales.
Yes.
But overall, you know, a leader has to take an owner or C-level exec who's leading has to take full accountability in the culture.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, really, as a leader, your actions, what you say, everything is under a microscope, and you need to realize that.
Yeah.
And
it lingers, by the way. I'll go into companies where the owner of a company has not yelled at someone in 2 or 3 years, but the culture is that leader, that owner is a yeller, and they're terrified of that person. And even if people have circulated out and there's still an X percentage of people at that company, that is still the walking on eggshells culture.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's a really interesting thing. And so that owner will go either two ways. They will bring people on that are yellers underneath them, right?
Yeah.
Or have that kind of tyrant behavior, so they don't have to be that person, or they will evolve the culture to something that's more in alignment with the soul of where they want their company to be. It's really an interesting thing I think, to watch within companies.
So when, the other thing that, where I think a lot of people go wrong with culture is in their hiring process. They just don't, one of my mentors always described it to me as, you hire for cultural fit first, and skills later, right? Because look, you can teach people skills, but if they don't buy into your culture, your vision, man, that's not going to change.
Correct. So
you got to hire for cultural fit first, and then hire for all the other stuff second. Which, goes down to, again, I could be the leader and I'm walking the walk, but then I hire managers that aren't walking the walk, and that's just going to screw everything up.
Correct.
I love it. Jon, you've dropped some serious value in this conversation.
Thanks.
Are there any words of wisdom, parting thoughts you want to leave us with?
I'll ask for one. I'll leave you with a couple that I see as issues for people. Ask for help, right? A lot of people, whether it's owner, it doesn't matter, you got to ask for help. And a lot of times people think that, a lot of times people think that they can just do it themselves. And, I'm a big fan of the same level of consciousness that got you to where you are is not going to get you to where you need to be. As a coach, I raise someone's frequency and vibration and consciousness, right? I raise their awareness, give them a picture of what's going on. And you need that outside perspective of sometimes people telling you kind of like, hey, here's what I see, right? Here's what I sense, here's what I see, here's what I'm hearing after talking to your people. And so if you don't like the way things are going, ask for help, right? And I think that's one of the most important things, because the more you ask for help, the more your people will ask for help. Culture is absolutely number one. Next, I would say, make sure as you run a company that your people feel connected and that they matter. We're in an environment right now where jobs are coming back and recruiters are calling into a lot of companies, and the people that aren't happy or don't feel connected or don't feel that you, as a company, you are working in alignment with the values that are on your wall, they're not going to stick around. And I think it's also important to note that, today the average, I say millennial in a positive way, they stay at a job 2, 3, 4 years. And so sometimes people in older generations complain or worry about that. But to me, there's nothing to complain or worry about. You bring somebody in, you understand what they want to do, how long they want to stay. And if you have the relationship with them where you say, hey, listen, I know you may want to leave in 2, 3, 4 years. The only thing I ask is give me 6-month notice, help find your replacement, build the training guide and manual along the way through the months and years that you're here. And so the transition just happens seamlessly. And so, don't fight what is happening.
Right.
Just dive into it and be smart about it, because those people may leave your company and end up being one of your best clients, or going to a company that is one of your best clients. And so just be open to where the world is going. Lastly, I'll say this. Every company must be thinking about how they are reinventing themselves. We are in a decade right now where by the year 2030, pre-COVID studies were saying that 85% of the jobs that exist do not exist today. And so we are in a world where artificial intelligence, virtual reality, self-driving cars, and technology that hasn't even been invented yet, that's going to shape, 2026 to 2030. And so every company has to get their systems and processes in place. If you want to grow a great company, you need great people, but you also have to constantly be forecasting and projecting where are we going to be in 3 years, and how do we constantly reinvent ourselves and use e-commerce, as a platform to really elevate what we're doing today. So those are just a couple thoughts that are kind of in my head as you asked the question.
Awesome. Jon, thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you.
If people who are watching, listening, if you're stuck and you need help, ask Jon for help. I know he can help you. Jon, best place for them to find you.
Yeah.
Where is that?
Yeah. You can call my cell at 248-535-7796 or shoot me a text, or go to Jon Dwoskin, Jon, D as in David, Woskin, JonDwoskin.com. I have over 900 episodes on a podcast, hundreds of blogs, hundreds of video tips, tons of free content that's updated pretty much every day.
Fantastic. Thank you for those of you tuning in. Again, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. If you want to gain clarity on where to focus your marketing right now, hop on over to our website, rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. Click on the Get a Free Consult button. I guarantee you will walk away knowing exactly where you need to focus right now to get the best return. Till next time, take care.
Thanks, man.
You bet.